Hello everyone, my name is Kasakaswazar Alexia. In this video presentation, I'm going to discuss about one of the language teaching methods, which is the silent way. Let us start now. The following is a quote from Caleb Gattegno, which says, "Teaching should be subordinated to learning." And this quote is one of the silent way method basic principles. The silent way method has been introduced in the 1970s by Caleb Gattegno. As its name suggests, silence is a tool to this method. It shares principles with cognitive approach, as teaching means serving the learning process rather than dominating it. And through the process of the method, language teaching and materials are developed with both deductive and inductive grammar exercise. Because Gattegno looked at language learning from the perspective of the learner by studying the way babies and young children learn. Next, let's look at its principles. The first one is, language is not learned by repeating after models, but from students' own inner criteria. That means that students have to develop their autonomy, their independence, and their responsibility, and the teacher remains silent. The second principle states that learning means transferring what one knows to new contexts. For example, if the students have learned about the tenses, they should be able to use the tenses they have learned into different situation or context given. The next principle specifies that the silent way focuses on students' ability to get meaning instead of using translation. Next, the skills of speaking, reading, and writing reinforce one another through the process of learning in the silent way method. Now, let's look at the teacher's roles. Firstly, the teacher is quiet as possible and only speaks when it is necessary. Then we may say that the teacher is viewed as a technician or an engineer. Next, the teacher works with the students while they work on the language. Then the next role of the teacher is to look for progression, not perfection, as it is important for the students to get the meaning. Also, the teacher doesn't praise or criticize students' behavior because it could affect the way they study. And last, which is the most important role of the teacher, is to await for students' feedback, so he may know where to correct the students or where he should repeat something. In contrast, here are the roles of the students. The first one we have already seen in the previous slides. They learn to develop their independence, their autonomy, and their responsibilities. Next, they have to make use of what they already know. Then, they have to give their utmost attention to their tasks. That means they have to focus a lot. Also, they have to actively engage in exploring the language. That is still a part of the autonomy. Then last, they have to interact and work cooperatively with each other, as it is not only teacher-students interaction but also student-students interaction. Now, let's see about the materials and the techniques. We are going to start with the materials first. The sound color chart is used to teach pronunciation. The Fidel chart is an association of spelling with sound of their own language. That means in the native language of the students. Roads. It is used to provide visible actions or situation for any language structure. And word chart is composed of vocabularies or also wall pictures and books. Now let's see about the techniques. The first one is the teacher's silence, which is the main tool of this method. Next, peer correction. As we have seen in the students' roles, they have to be able to interact with each other, so they may correct each other when one is making mistakes. Next, self-correction gestures. These are the gestures established by the teacher as he is remaining silent. Those gestures let the students know if they are making mistakes, or if they have to repeat something, or if they have to add something. And the last technique is feedback. At the end of each lesson given by the teacher, students are given time to give feedbacks so the teacher may know which part of the lesson they still do not understand well. So the teacher would correct it in the next session of lesson. Last but not least, let's look at the advantages and the inconvenience of using the silent way methods. First, we are gonna see about the students. As advantages, it encourages the interaction with each other. Then, they are free to make many mistakes as possible, so the teacher would correct them directly. It also encourages self-learning and correcting. Next, it increases their focus. Although it has inconvenience, the roads may be confusing for them, and they might not be used to have silent teacher. Now let's see the contrast in the point of view of the teacher. As advantages, when they are silent, they are free to observe students' behavior, and they correct their students as soon as they make errors. But as inconvenience, if the teacher don't know how to use the teaching aids, it might not be effective, and the progress may look different with other methods learned before. That is all from me. Thank you for following through the video presentation.